Hey there. We've all been there, right? Sitting in a doctor's office, going through the motions of a checkup. It feels so routine. But have you ever really stopped and thought about what's actually happening in those moments? You know the drill. The blood pressure cuff squeezes your arm, you hear that little beep from the thermometer. These are your vital signs. But there's so much more than just numbers on a chart. They're the opening lines to the story of your health. So, what story are they telling?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to decode that story together. We'll start with the body's vital data, then get into reading temperature, the secrets of your heart's rhythm and breath, and we'll finally make sense of those blood pressure numbers. We'll also touch on some other key body metrics, and then we'll get to the single most important step in this whole process. Ready to dive in?
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What are vital signs really? Well, at their core, they're just the body's essential signals, translated into numbers. Think of it like this. They give healthcare pros a quick, fundamental snapshot of how your body is functioning, right here, right now. It's the baseline that everything else is built on. First up, temperature. Seems super simple, right? But where you take it, that matters a lot. We're going to look at the two most common spots, under the tongue and under the armpit, which, by the way, has the fancier name of the axillary area. Now this choice, it's not random at all. Taking a temperature orally, under the tongue, that's the standard for anyone who's awake, alert, and can follow directions. But what if a patient is confused, maybe combative, or even unconscious? Well, then the armpit method is the go-to. It's all about safety. The oral procedure is pretty straightforward. You place the thermometer, ask the patient to close their lips, and just wait for that beep. Simple. But did you ever stop and wonder why it has to go right there, under the tongue specifically? The reason is actually pretty cool. And here it is. This is the aha moment. It's not just about how warm your mouth is. That thermometer is placed there for one specific reason, to pick up the heat from the big blood vessels that are right under your tongue. This gives a way more accurate reading of your body's core temperature. Pretty smart, huh? I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's funny, but it's also incredibly practical. For a patient who might not understand what's going on, putting a thermometer in their mouth could actually be dangerous. But, as our source so brilliantly points out, no teeth in the armpits. It's just the safest way to do it. Okay, so from the body's heat, let's tune in to its rhythm. We're moving on to the quiet, steady signals of your pulse and your breathing. And as we're about to see, these two are often measured together for a very, very clever reason. So to find a pulse, you're going to use the tips of your first three fingers and place them on the wrist, right on the thumb side. And here is the absolute number one rule. Never, ever use your own thumb. Why? Because your thumb has its own powerful artery, and if you use it, you might end up counting your pulse instead of the patient's. Total game over for accuracy. And you're listening for so much more than just a number. You're actually checking three different things. The rate, that's your beats per minute. The rhythm, is it steady and regular? And the force, is the pulse strong or is it weak? Each one gives a different clue. But this is where the whole process gets a little sneaky. And here's the secret. After you're done counting the pulse for 60 seconds, you just keep your fingers on their wrist, pretending you're still feeling for it. But what you're really doing is watching their chest rise and fall to count their breaths. It's kind of funny. The second people know you're watching them breathe, they start breathing weirdly. So you have to do it incognito to get a real natural reading. All right, let's tackle the big one, the one that can feel the most intimidating, blood pressure. That tightening cuff, those two numbers, it can all seem a little mysterious, but I promise we're about to make it super clear. First things first, let's just get the name out of the way, because it's a doozy. That whole contraction, the cuff, the little bulb you squeeze, the gauge, it's officially called a sphygmomanometer. Go ahead, try saying that 3 times fast. And our source here just cracks me up. You try to pronounce that. But beyond the tricky name, there's a really important point here. Getting the right size cuff is absolutely critical. If it's too big or too small, your reading could be way off. So accuracy really starts with grabbing the right gear. So what are those two numbers anyway? Well, it all comes down to what the clinician hears with a stethoscope. As they slowly release the air from the cuff, the very first whooshing sound they hear, that's the top number, the systolic pressure. It's the pressure when your heart is actively beating. Then they keep listening until that sound disappears completely. That moment of silence, That's the bottom number, the diastolic pressure. It's the pressure when your heart is resting between beats. See? Simple.
All right, so while they might not always be in that core 4 list of vitals, there are a couple of other metrics that are a huge part of your health story. The good old fundamentals of height and weight.
And you're probably sensing a theme here, right? Accuracy is everything. For someone who can't stand up, you measure their height while they lie flat. For weight, you have to make sure the scale is zeroed out before they get on. And if they're in a wheelchair, you got to subtract the chair's weight to get the real number. These little steps make all the difference.
So, we've covered temperature, pulse, respiration, blood pressure, even height and weight. We've learned the techniques, the why behind it all. But honestly, none of it means a thing without this one final, absolutely critical action. I'm serious. You can take the most precise temperature, count the most accurate pulse, get a perfect blood pressure reading, but all of that data is completely useless if you forget this one thing. And here it is. This is the golden rule of healthcare. Documenting it, writing it down. Because in the medical and legal world, if you didn't write it down, it might as well have never happened. Documentation is everything. And this is why it's so important. Writing it down right away ensures it's accurate, so you don't forget the details. It communicates that info to the entire healthcare team, so everyone's on the same page. And yeah, it creates that crucial legal record, the official proof of the care that was given. So the next time you're in that doctor's office and you feel that cuff tighten or hear that little beep, remember what's really going on. These aren't just procedures. It's the language of your body being carefully translated and recorded. Every number is a word. Every reading is a sentence, all coming together to tell your story. So what's the story your body is telling today?